Welcome to this episode of the Diverge Podcast. In this week's show, we look at the 2026 Absa Cape Epic route, which was launched on the 9th of October. And it is going to be, a return to the roots of the Absa Cape Epic with stages in Montagu, Greyton, and Stellenbosch after the prologue time trial at Meerendal Wine Estate. A longer route, the longest since 2015, but also the least climbing since 2018. So lots to look forward to and dig into there. And then we also look back at the Prince George 100 miler, which was won over the weekend by Catherine Klein and Jan Vitar. So let's dive right into it. Kicking off with the 2026 Absa Cape Epic route. 8 days, 692 kilometers, 15,900 meters of climbing. That is an average of 22.98 meters of climbing per kilometer, which is the least since 2018, and it is also the longest race since 2015, which was the last time the route went over 700 kilometers. 3 very long days, 3 days in excess, 3 days in excess of 100 kilometers, 2 very long stages, stage 3 and stage 5, those transition days, which are both near the 130 kilometer mark. The longest stages since the stage 3 is the longest stage of the race since 2017, which also was 137 kilometers. Kind of followed a similar route that year from Arabella wines near Ashton, which is pretty close to Montagu, actually, to the Oaks wine estate outside of Greyton, but that's on the eastern side of Greyton. This year, Middle Pass on the western side of Greyton, so that sort of equates for the extra distance a bit there. But very much a return to the way things used to be, but then into Stellenbosch and a blend of the old and new. So I think hopefully a more balanced route than we saw this year at the urban epic, which was very contained, very compact all around the winelands towns of Durbanville, Paarl, and then Somerset West. So I think a route that's going to suit the marathon riders, the marathon teams a bit more, but we'll still have something in it for the cross country stars too. I think let's go through stage by stage and then provide some overview analysis. The prologue this year, Sunday, the 15th of March, 20 kilometers, 650 meters of climbing, 7 kilometers shorter, 100 meters less climbing than the 2025 prologue on Meerendal. Dorpsberg comes right at the end of the stage this year, going all the way up Stairway to Heaven, and then onto the Dorpsberg all the way to the top. So the teams will, the amateur teams will have to sort of pace their efforts a little bit to account for that. For the elite men and women, the elite men, you're looking at about 45 minutes for that stage, maybe even less, maybe closer, around 40 minutes. So it's going to be flat out, right from the gun. No time to waste, no time to get into it. It's just flat out the max effort right from the beginning. So I think that'll lend itself to the cross country riders, but with a 2 hour 20 minutes transfer to Montagu, it might actually serve the teams better to not be on the podium, just to get the day done and to get traveling rather than to wait around for the podium presentation and all of that, which is going to cost the top 3 teams probably an extra hour. Maybe not quite that much, but still, if you want to settle into Montagu, that would be the way to go. You would imagine that the top teams will have everything set up in Montagu already on Sunday morning, so it would just be the riders that get ferried across. But still, bit of extra time in the car late in the afternoon, which could be avoided. Though it's difficult to plan for these things, obviously, in a time trial. So it's just maybe something more in hindsight would prove handy rather than actually something that could be planned for. The trails, though the route is different, the prologue in 25 and 26, different prologues, it still has the same kind of feel to it, and it will feel very familiar to people that ride those Tigerberg trails and have ridden prologues on Meerendal Wine Estate before. Stage 1, though, is very different. 90 kilometers, 2,150 meters of climbing from the Montagu schools, and it's got a cheese grater profile. It looks rough. It will be rough out there. It's the first year that I haven't been involved with the route since the 2019 Epic. So I've got no idea what it really is going to be like out there. But I've cycled out in Montagu, and I know the area a bit. And I would imagine what they're going to try to do is mix in as much dual track as possible. Riders that took part in the 2025 Cape Pioneer, remember those transition stages were far rougher this year, and took in far more Jeep track than gravel road for the first time. And that really takes its toll. Probably not on stage 1 already, but over the course of the week, just the amount of rocky dual track in the Karoo will start to batter you. And Hengo from Dryland always jokes that Jeep track and the Karoo is just two single tracks next to each other. And that kind of is a little bit like it. It's less stressful, obviously, for the races because you're right up there. You can ride in a tighter group. You're not spread out down the line. So the pace line doesn't become 50 meters long if there's 5-6 teams in the mix. But it will take its toll. Punches will be part of it. You expect stage 1, even though it is shorter than stage 2, to probably be tougher, so more physically demanding. Stage 2 also features more climbing, so you've got to think that the terrain on stage 1 is going to be rockier, is going to be rougher, is going to be harder on the riders and the bikes. We'll start to see there who the real protagonists of the 2026 race will be. Prologue is more sort of an appetite whetter. Stage 2 on Tuesday, the 17th of March, 102 kilometers, the first of the 100 kilometer plus stages, 2,250 meters of climbing, starting and finishing in Montagu. It goes up the Oberg Pass on gravel up to just over 1,000 meters above sea level. That first 30 kilometers is all uphill, and then after that trends downhill with a significant amount of climbing still, but sort of starts to trend downhill. I would imagine that we're going to see a pretty fast climb for the first 30 kilometers with a fair amount of gravel road, and then after that into the dual tracks, and it's going to become rockier and rougher. Even though they're trending downhill, it'll be pretty tough, ending once again with the Montagu trails in behind the schools, which are unmanicured, and there's not a lot of flow to them, kind of Piketberg style trails, Piketboerberg style trails there. So that's going to make for a tough final 5 kilometers as well. And if a team gets away, there could be a gap could open up significantly in that last 5 kilometers as people sort of lose their spirit a little bit. For the amateurs, the back markers, you're going to think you're nearly home, and then it's going to be that sting in the tail, the type of sting in the tail that Leon Evans, Dr. Evil, would have been proud of. That is going to hurt, and that's for sure. Stage 3, the longest day since 2017, 134 kilometers, only 1,750 meters of climbing, so not that much climbing. Most of the climbing comes fairly early on in the first 55 kilometers or so, but then once the teams cross the Sonderend River after Stormsvlei, it's going to be all gradually uphill, and that's going to hurt. Wind in that area can play a part as well. March, you're going to be looking for the southeaster to be blowing, so that should be a tailwind. But if you have a day where there's a cold front and you're riding into a northwester, I've done that before along those roads. That is horrible. It really is. It really is unpleasant. So yeah, hopefully that's not the case for the amateur teams. I wouldn't be surprised, despite it being 134 kilometers, we end up in a sprint finish, coming into middle class in Greyton. I think that back 60 is going to lend itself to group riding, and you're probably going to see people conserving energy rather than going out too hard. There's the first 55 or so are built for a breakaway to get away, but unless Speed Company Racing really go for it, you don't see anybody else having the balls, I suppose, to want to go that far out and for that long on their own. Stage 4 then in Greyton, loop stage, 84 kilometers, 1,950 meters of climbing. Again, the last time we were in Greyton was 2022. It's going to feel pretty similar to that. Different orientation, again, different start and finish location. Thankfully, we are nowhere near those, Elandskloof, which is a venue that I really hated. It's a terrible race village, narrow, elongated, everything was far apart. It was dry and dusty. The wind blew through it. It's just not a great venue for hosting a stage start and finish. So middle class. I haven't been there, but hopefully it will be a better venue for the race. And yeah, I think Greyton as well is going to have a fairly similar feel to Montagu, rocky trails. Some very steep climbs, not the longest climbs in the world, but they are steep. And the trails as well also pretty much lack flow. The sort of shale rock that dominates around the Greyton area, you've got to be really careful of punctures where you put your wheels the whole time. It takes a lot of concentration to ride around those routes. Again, no berms, just flat rocky corners, so you can't carry too much speed into the corners, breaks up the flow. But yeah, another place that you can pre-ride a lot of the routes as well, which is obviously going to make a bigger impact, especially for the local riders. And I'm sure there will be a race that pops up there as well before March to help people prepare. Stage 5. This is the undoubted Queen stage, and it's going to be an absolute doozy. 128 kilometers, so only 6 kilometers shorter than stage 3, but 1,000 meters more climbing, 2,700 meters of climbing on the trails from Greyton to Stellenbosch. I was expecting Lawrenceford to be the third race village for this year's race, so I'm a bit surprised that we are going all the way to Stellenbosch. Started the stage with a climb, and then fairly benign until Cut Pass. Though Cut Pass isn't the worst climb in the world. Up all the way through Elgin, just climbing the whole way to Protea above Oak Valley, down to the dam at the Eikenhof Dam. There's a water point there, 70 kilometers in, and then into the A to Z trails towards Kanto Pass, portage down into the Helderberg Basin. It looks like the easiest way across the Helderberg Basin through Idiom and Vergelegen into Lawrenceford, and then that climb of the neck, which isn't the worst climb in the world. It's, everybody knows it from Wines to Wales. It's got some steep sections in it, but mostly it's pretty good plantation road, somewhere between gravel road and jeep track, all the way up to the top of the neck, and then down that very steep downhill to Dornier. Again, the race hasn't gone down there when was the last time we went down there? I actually don't even remember. In 2019, we had a similar sort of day when it went from Oak Valley to Stellenbosch, a little bit shorter. That was only 100 kilometers that day. That day, and we went around the front of the Helderberg Mountain, not over the neck. Um, and I think we could see a similar sort of thing play out if a GC team managed to get away with a friendly team that are out of the running for the general classification, but are chasing a stage victory. On that occasion, it was Full Base and Matthijs Beekes of Page Eurosteel that worked with Nino Schurter and Lars Foster of Scott's MTB Racing, Scott's SRAM MTB Racing. Something similar in 2026 could see a GC team gain lots of time. It is the type of day that there's not a lot of point to be in a group once you get even, out of Elgin, even through Elgin, all those single tracks from the Hoek Hotel all the way to Hunto Pass, lots of single tracks there, lots of the climbs that aren't single track are all sort of steep vineyard road climbs. Not much point being in a group there. So a strong team could gain lots of time there, especially with a little bit of assistance from another equally matched team. So look for something like that to happen on the Queen stage in 2026. It has Prime Speed Company Racing written all over it. If kind of reminiscent of that day in 2023 when they took the yellow jerseys from Scott Strap, but then in the rain going over Groenlandberg. So if Lucas Baum and Georgiego are back to their best, that is a day that they definitely will be earmarking. Stage 6, 76 kilometers, 2,450 meters of climbing around Stellenbosch into the Bangkok Valley and Plesier de Mil and the Boschendal, and then back through the Idus Valley trails, up Botmaskop again for the second time in the day, down the Doctor and back to Kutsenberg. It's going to be a tough day. It's a lot of climbing packed into not very many kilometers at all. That's a classic Stellenbosch day. Lots and lots of single track, lots of steep climbs. It's going to hurt on tired legs. It's going to be some very unhappy people on those trails. I would suggest to ride the Ford Trail Seeker at Plesier Wine Estate in January to get a little bit of a feel for it. But at least the trails will be good. They will be thrilling. The downhills will be as much fun as they can be, though most people by that point are going to be too tired to enjoy it. There's going to be a lot of riding downhill sitting down rather than actually riding them to be enjoyed, especially towards the back of the field. The final stage, 58 kilometers, 2,000 meters of climbing. Again, another tough last day in Stellenbosch. A very similar day to the last time we finished in Stellenbosch, which was in 2024, going into Jonkershoek with a climb up Salkie through along the Contour Trail and then down Never Ending, rather than coming down Red Phoenix as we did that year, then across, down Never Ending, back up, then down Red Phoenix Valley Trail, up the other side, Boslace, down the Fire Hut climb, and along the Dentist through the back of that on the far side of the river. There's that climb on the far side there that you can see from the Jonkershoek Road. They go up that and then into the Kutsenberg precinct. They traverse across towards Eden, come back through G-Spot and a little bit of the old XCO trail. And that is the finish on the Kutsenberg field. Once again, no real exciting grand finale with a different finish. In 2024, there were talks about hosting a finish in the town of Stellenbosch. They eventually mothballed that idea. I'm sure there are plans once again to see if something like that is possible. At this stage, it looks like a finish on the Kutsenberg fields. It's a little bit anticlimactic, but yeah, still a tough final day. People will definitely feel like they've earned their Absa Cape Epic finishes medals, even if it isn't the steepest edition of the race. You know, if you by contrast, if you look at some of the more recent editions, it's been 26 meters of climbing per kilometer, 27 meters of climbing per kilometer in 2025. So 20, yeah, call it 23, 22.98 is definitely easier. But those long days, the stage 2, 3, and 5 are really going to hurt. And then you go into the days in Stellenbosch where it's a lot of climbing per meter again, and yeah, those are going to hurt too. Just sort of slightly different muscles in a slightly different way. It's going to be a doozy of a race. Hopefully, it provides that mix that we've been lacking in recent years of more distance. I know Tristan O'Keefe has said before that he feels with the cross country guys that they are, you know, almost unplayable for 3.5 hours, and you kind of just have to hang in there. And then those days that go over 3.5 hours, you can see them start to fatigue, and the more marathon guys, the South African guys in particular, then start to come back to them. So yeah, probably a race that'll suit both Megamo as well as the Imbuka Chemchamp team, whatever Toyota Specialized do for next year. There's obviously talk that Keegan Swenson has joined the Specialized Factory Racing team. So you would think that would mean another Matt Beers Keegan Swenson team up for the Epic. It's, yeah, a route that would suit them as well. If Keegan takes it seriously and arrives fully fit. Yeah, so some interesting things to look forward to. Lots of good speculation to look forward to as well over the coming months as rumors of who the teams will be starts to drop. The other big news from the Absa Cape Epic that they announced at route launch was the fact that the women's race, the UCI women's race, will be shorter. They're looking for time parity rather than distance parity. So to get the women racing across the same time as the men, you're looking then at sort of 3.5 to 4.5 hour stages, depending on the length of the stage. So the women will still race, you know, proper marathon stages on those very long days, those 100-kilometer plus days. Depending on the layout of the stages, so the loop stages, they'll essentially take a shortcut to cut out some distance. Hopefully they will still do all the key climbs, all the key features of the race, and maybe just cut out some junk miles that are always just included in an Epic just to make up distance, which has always annoyed me as while trial riding the route. I mean, you're just going around something just because you need to make up distance. It is very frustrating, especially when you know the layout of the land and you could just cut across something. So from that sense, the woman will probably ride a more rewarding course. Exactly where they're cut out hasn't been announced yet. On the point-to-point stages, stage 3 and stage 5, they will start. So the prologue time trial, they ride exactly the same route. Time trials in general and short stages like the final stage, stage 7, they'll also ride the same route. And then the long transition stages, they will have a remote start, probably at the first water point. So they'll probably be starting in Bonnievale, which is 24 kilometers into the 134 kilometer stage. So they still do more than 100 kilometers on stage 3. stage 5. I can't see that they would start at that first water point at Beaumont Wines there. They'll probably have to start before that. So again, probably cutting 20 odd kilometers out. So we will see how those routes exactly work out. The idea is, of course, to the time parity, that a lot of the cross country women don't want to come to the Cape Epic because they don't want to race 5-hour stages. Just don't want to race 5-hour stages. It's not just about when in the year it is. It's just that they don't want to do 8 5. It's not going to be 8 5-hour stages, but they don't want to do 3 5-hour days. The removing that. The reports are from the teams that they are interested and are keen. So hopefully we will see some big names come to the 2026 race from the women's race. I think there's speculation already that Candice Dill and Kate Courtney might be racing together, might be back together. They both were quoted in the video, so that would be cool. Kate and Candice, of course, raced the Tankwa Trek together in February this year, and won that quite handsomely. So they do work well as a stage race pairing, and they do get along very well. So that will be exciting. But we need more than just Kate and Candice. It would be great to have Ghost Factory racing back. It would be great to have Cannondale bringing Yolanda Neff out. I mean, she does train in South Africa a fair bit, so something like that would be incredible. Specialized to come back with their women's races as well. So we'll see. The women's race does need some fresh impetus like that, and they had to change something. So hopefully this makes the difference. I think the proof of the pudding will be no one will complain if Evie Richards and Jenny Resvets and Kate Courtney and whoever else line up. But if it's sort of a mix of the familiar faces again, and the women's races won by 20 minutes by Annika Langvat and Sofia Gomez Villafan again, I think then the feeling will be quite negative. Once again, we'll have to wait and see who confirms for that. But at this stage, the early noises are pretty positive from the top women's teams. So hopefully we will see some exciting women's racing in the 2026 Absa Cape Epic as well. Then more recent news from the Prince George Monumental 100-miler. Jan Vittar won the men's race there. Dan Loubser went over the Swartberg Pass first, took the King of the Mountain prize. Jan Vittar managed to sort of keep him in his sights, descended down to Dan, caught up with Dan on the descent to Kobusachat going down the southern side of Swartberg Pass. Those two worked together, established a nice gap on the chasing pack, and then Jan attacked Dan in the last 30 kilometers, so got away and won the race. The women's race, Catherine Cullen, who's lining up and fine-tuning her form for Gravelburn at the end of the month, she climbed away from the rest of the women's field early on, went over, took the Queen of the Mountain prize up at the top of the Swartberg, and then rode the rest of the race solo, won very handsomely over Yolandi de Villiers. So Cath Cullen in fine form heading into Gravelburn, which is exciting for her, up against some very big names there. And we're going to be bringing you reports from Gravelburn as well towards the end of the month. So stay tuned for more of that, and some previews of that coming up as well. In the meantime, though, thank you very much for listening to this episode of the show. Until next time, cheers.